let me talk to you about the four-pronged strategy that the administration has for starting a war with Iran. And then we'll tell you if it can be prevented. All right. We're going to prove it exactly and show you exactly the quotes we're talking about here. That's going to show you how they plan to start the war with Iran. First, the first prong of the strategy is the Bush administration, of course. Dick Cheney says, oh, my God, the Al-Quds force is going to come to get us. The Iranians are terrible, etc. Bush gave a speech last month that we documented where he said, I have authorized the military to confront Iran's murderous activities against our troops. Seymour Hersh has reported in the New Yorker that the plan by the administration has switched from saying, oh, wow, they're going to attack with nuclear weapons because that was so fanciful and ridiculous, that they're going to make it simpler. Any attack inside Iraq at all, we're going to blame on the Iranians, and we're going to act in attacking their Quds force and their Iranian Revolutionary Guard, which, by the way, is just simply, basically, their military. We're going to take on the Iranian military. It means basically we're going to attack Iran. So that's prong number one is the administration. Prong number two is Congress. And their main ally there is Senator Joe Lieberman. Not any of the Republicans. Yes, those are allies, no question about it. But their top ally is Lieberman, who used to be a Democrat. And unfortunately, a lot of uneducated people in Connecticut put him up for one more term. Now they regret it. Latest polls show, too little, too late. So Lieberman then does an amendment, two different amendments. First, his amendment on Iranians are attacking us in Iraq, and they're terrorists, and we need to confront them militarily. That passes 97-0 through Congress. Because, hey, if you don't vote against Iran, you'll seem soft against terror. Right? Iran's a terrorist state, got to vote against them. Then he does an even harsher amendment, the Kyle Lieberman amendment, saying, no, that's it, the Quds force is officially a bunch of terrorists, and we need to attack them as soon as possible. He gets, that passes flying colors. 76 senators, including Senator Hillary Clinton. Oh, yeah, they're terrible, terrible, terrible. Now, at the last second, they took out the clause saying we should attack them right now. Congratulations. Wow, okay. Big concession for the Democrats. But basically the amendment says, hey, they're attacking us in Iraq. What's the next logical step? Cheney and Bush take that and go, see, the Senate said they're attacking us in Iraq. Well, we would be betraying our troops if we didn't protect them. So that's prong number two. Prong number three is the generals themselves. They fired all the generals who disagree with them or demoted them. And they've got a couple of lackeys, a couple of bootlickers like General Petraeus and Odierno, who are willing to spew talking points. There was a great article in the American Conservative, about how General Petraeus has become nothing but a political soldier. He's like one of these political generals that just tells his overlords whatever they want to hear, and now he's taken it to a whole new level. I have zero respect left for General Petraeus. None. Okay? Here he is. Talking about the Revolutionary Guard's elite Quds force. He says, quote, they are responsible for providing the weapons, the training, the funding, and in some cases direction for operations that have indeed killed U.S. soldiers. And the ambassador is a Quds force member. Boo! Oh my God. Oh wow, it's a Quds force. It's a Quds force. Okay. Now, has the Quds force done something in Iraq against our troops? Number one, here's a surprising answer. We have no evidence to that effect. They put together a press conference. It was comical. No intelligence member, no CIA, no Pentagon guy. The guys that normally do the press conferences with their full names and badges came in, and none of them came in and would give their full name. They said, oh, you can call me John or Joe, but I'm not going to give you my name because what I'm about to tell you is a crock of crap. They came out there and they said, see, look at this stuff here. We won't show it to you. You're not allowed to take pictures of it, but trust us, it's from Iran. And then they pulled it away. And even if they were responsible for it, what General Petraeus doesn't know that in fact 90% of the weapons used against us are from the Sunnis and that they come from Saudi Arabia? Now, why does he keep giving Cheney talking points on the Quds force in Iran when he damn well knows that most of his soldiers and his troops are being killed by money sent in from Saudi Arabia? Why does he keep talking about Iran and never mention Saudi Arabia? Because he's a puppet. He's a useless puppet for Dick Cheney. Do your job, man. You're supposed to protect those boys and girls there. You're supposed to be their commanding general. You're supposed to look out for them. And you've totally forgotten them. You've abandoned them. Move on was more than 100% right. He is General Betray Us. He doesn't give a damn about the troops. He cares about his own political career. Now people are talking about as soon as he steps out, he might run for the Senate as a Republican. Boy, I'm really shocked. If you cared at all about those kids dying, you would talk about how Saudi Arabia keeps falling in money that's getting our troops killed with all those IEDs. But you never mention that. Instead, you keep talking about Iran because that's what Dick Cheney, your boss, told you to do. It's General Petraeus. Shut up, sit down, and do exactly as you're told, you political general. He's no general at all, man. He's no general at all. Then they go to Afghanistan. They found another bootlicker there. U.S. Army General Dan McNeil, NATO's senior commander in Afghanistan. So he says, get a load of these quotes to the Washington Post he gave. Quote, I think there is sufficient intelligence to put together a picture that says this convoy that we intercepted the other day in Afghanistan, which clearly, geographically originated in Iran. You understand that? I mean, that's word for word the language that Dick Cheney used to attack Iraq. He was on Meet the Press and he said Iraq is in the center of the geographic area from which these terrorists came from. So, in other words, the general is saying, oh, we don't have any evidence that came from the Iranian government, but it came from the geographic region called Iran. Wow, you got him. You got him, General. So give us more talking points. Point number 2, he says, quote, it would be hard for me to imagine that they had come into Afghanistan without the knowledge of at least the military in Iran. So what you're saying is you have no evidence to that effect, but it would be hard for you to imagine that. Well, okay, well, then let's attack. Let's attack. Quote number 3. Who is that military? Like the Republican Guard Corps, could be the Quds Force part of that. In other words, I have no idea, but Dick Cheney told me to tell you that it's the Iranian Revolutionary Guard and the Quds Force. It could be. It would be hard for me to imagine that anything else could come out of that geographic area. So these are the generals we have left. All the top commanders on the ground are the ones that said, Dick Cheney, George Bush, what would you like me to do? Who would you like me to attack? I'll go along with anything you say, because I don't care about my troops. All I care about is my career. So that's prong number 3. That brings us to prong number 4. Remember, they use all of these in Iraq as well. And one of the most important prongs here is the media. Will the media buy it and then sell it to the American people? Well, 2 important things step in here. One is the Washington Post. Washington Post and New York Times. They got to use those guys. In the past shows, we've read you article after article from the New York Times, 100% buying into this Quds Force. Now, there are some articles that every once in a while, there'll be a rogue reporter who'll like, wait a minute now. They didn't actually present any evidence, did they? Huh, that's curious. And they'll run that on A-17, just like they did in Iraq. Remember, there was articles saying that, no, wait a minute, they might not have weapons of destruction, or the war might go badly. I read them. They were on page A-17. But the main headlines were, Iraq, major danger, nuclear weapons, mushroom clouds. That's what Judy Miller, that's what she said. Put it on the front page. Okay? So, what's on the front page of the Washington Post? David Ignatius. He writes, one of the respected elders of the Washington media, David Ignatius of the Washington Post. So here's his first 2 paragraphs in an article ironically labeled, A Way Out of Iran. I didn't know we were in Iran. We got a way out of Iran now, apparently. Quote, this was this past Sunday. If you read the liberal blogosphere, already wildly dismissive. If you read the liberal blogosphere and even the stately New Yorker magazine, you get the impression that the Bush administration is itching to drop a bomb on Iran. But talking with senior administration officials this week, I heard a different line. Oh, did you? Really? The administration told you something different. Well, that's very surprising. Hey, I hope you wrote it down so you can deliver it as if it's facts. Oh, it turns out you did, huh? So let's go to paragraph number 2. They worry about Iranian actions, and they are disappointed that diplomatic overtures to Iran so far have resulted in little progress. They believe that Washington and Tehran remain on a collision course over Iran's nuclear program and its destabilizing activities in Iraq, but senior officials say they are seeking to avoid military conflict. Okay, so what has David Ignatius done so far? Oh, the idiots on the liberal blogosphere and the formerly stately New Yorker have all these crazy conspiracy theories. But now let me tell you exactly what the administration told me, and I didn't question it all, and I wrote it down as if I'm a reporter. And what they're telling me is, we are on a collision course, and what they're doing is terrible, and diplomacy has not worked, but trust us, we haven't decided to go to war yet, just like they did in Iraq. Of all the things you're going to hear, this is the most critical part. David Ignatius writes in the Washington Post in a horrible article, military force is harder to gauge. He says, talking to senior administration officials. Military force is harder to gauge. President Bush continues to insist that all options are on the table, and there is planning for a range of possibilities. Some options would focus on the Al-Quds Force of the Revolutionary Guard Corps, the most militant faction in the jumble that is the Iranian regime. But one knowledgeable official argues that any surgical strikes against the Al-Quds Force, as discussed by Seymour Hersh in the New Yorker, would come only in response to a high-casualty attack, say on U.S. forces in Iraq, that could be traced to Iran. In other words, Seymour Hersh was exactly right. So the article is supposed to say that Seymour Hersh is wrong. In fact, it says Seymour Hersh is right, we are going to attack Iran, but only if there's a high-casualty attack against us in Iraq. But of course that's how you're going to do it. How do I know? Look, I told you yesterday my girlfriend's friends are now calling me the fortune teller, right? But you don't have to be a fortune teller. We said this on the show, what was it, a year ago now? It's 18 months ago. I said to Ben, they're not going to attack out of the blue. They're not idiots. The minute that there's a big attack in Iraq that kills a lot of our troops, they're going to say, oh, we know for a fact Iran did it, and we got to attack them. JR, did I not say that 18 months ago on the show, that would be the excuse they would use? A helicopter goes down at Chunuk, something, 10, 12 guys die, and they say, oh, Iran did it, what are we going to do? We didn't want to do this, and we already told all of our buddies at the Washington Post and CNN that we weren't going to do it, but as it turns out, they forced our hand, we couldn't help it. See, they're sending you the memo, man. They're saying this is why we're going to attack. Why do you think they fed it to their boy at the Washington Post, David Ignatius? The rest of this article is crap. I mean, he took a dump and the Washington Post printed it, okay? All he did was he talked to somebody in Dick Cheney's office. He took notes. He's like, oh, okay, what else would you like me to print in the Washington Post as if it's true? And then without criticizing it or putting any thought behind it, and hey, wait, is it true or is it not true? When somebody told him that, did he go back and say, hey, wait a minute, how do you know there's going to be a high casualty attack in Iran? Are you saying that that's what you're planning to do as soon as there's a high casualty attack? You're going to blame it on Iran? How would you have evidence of that? And why are you talking about it now? Did he ask any of those questions? No. Did he ask for evidence of what connects the Quds Force to attacks inside Iraq? Did he say to that senior administration officials that he plays racquetball with, that he loves so much, did he ask him, what is your evidence? No. I read the whole goddamn thing. Not once does he ask for any evidence. David Ignatius is a horrible reporter. Horrible. He's one of the worst I've ever seen. And then when they start the Iran war, after all we hear is, no, it's Quds Force, Iran, then they'll say, oh, we screwed that one up. I can't believe we've made the same mistake we made in Iraq. Oh, well, golly gee willikers, who's next? Syria? What's happening? Malaysia? Where are we going next? And then they'll make the same mistake again and again.